Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope the start of your day is amazing and that it continues to expand and be more so throughout the day. I'm really excited today. I have to say, in my last video, I was just talking about how I'm just had this urge to express myself via these videos, and I was just letting my creativity unfold, even if I didn't fully understand exactly where it was going or how it was supposed to look or blah blah blah. Well, it seems like now that I released that and I acted on it, um, like last night I just had this burst of like excitement and this idea for how I want to shape these videos in the future, um, going along with my upcoming move, and basically this idea of creating your own reality and what that looks like on a practical day-to-day level, what that looks like in more than just a theoretical, sitting on your mat excuse me, meditating or philosophizing about it with friends. Like, what does it look like? And that's something that I'm very interested in sharing with people who maybe have a background of thinking like I used to, very analytical, very mind-based, very reasonable. So anyway, that's a kind of a side note, but I'm really excited about that. So I'm feeling great today, and I wanted to talk about uh, something that I found very helpful, which is the difference between feeling an emotion and being that emotion. The difference of the mindset of like thinking a thought and kind of like being thought by that thought, or being that thought basically. So, I was recently talking with my friend Kirsten about meditation, and she was expressing kind of maybe, I don't want to speak for her, but maybe some frustration, or kind of disenchanted with this idea of that we're supposed to stop thought with meditation, that just doesn't really happen for her, and that that it just doesn't really happen, not really helpful to meditate necessarily. Now, I don't know how this will change in the future, but for me, when I do meditate now, it is not about stopping thought. And I think that that's a lot of the disappointment that people have with meditation, is that they're looking for it to make them into this like, oh, like I have no thoughts right now, I am perfect, I'm one with the universe. Well, for me, it has been a bit more of a initially uncomfortable but overall very helpful process of creating space between your feelings and your thoughts and the rest of you. So it's like why meditation is so great for people who are overcome with emotion sometimes and do something and they just were like, whoa, I was just overcome with anger. Well, meditation helps you to create a little pause in which you're able to, like, kind of a little safe space for you to observe yourself and decide if that's something that you really want or not. Do you really want that? And you can work through it and you can release it in different ways. Now, this is kind of the idea that if any of you have read Eckhart Tolle's work, he talks about this, about how when he was at his absolute low, he had this feeling of being like, wait a second, I am currently observing myself. Who is the self observing myself? I'm having these feelings, I'm having these emotions, I'm feeling, suicidal, but he could observe himself in that moment. Meditation is honing that observation skill, which is a science. I mean, the science, of observing yourself, it's a self-science. And if our bodies and we as human beings are an instrument to connecting to the world around us, we take in stimulus, we put out emotions and thoughts, then absolutely we need the self-science of examining that tool. I mean, what science is there where you go into it and you observe all the stimulus, but you never look at the implement, like the tool that you're using to extract that information? Seriously, like, that always needs to be a part of it. You need to understand how that works. Well, we have hardly tapped the, basic understanding of human consciousness, especially in Western, thinking and science. When it comes down to it, we haven't done much of that. Whereas they've done a lot more of that in Ayurvedic, yogic traditions. So, really worth looking into, right? So, once you're able to create that space, which I'm going to kind of try to break that down a little bit more. Okay, so when you're meditating, there are a bunch of different ways to meditate and different things you focus on. One of the main things is the breath, which is just your essential life force. It's basically this really, at first, you need to focus on all these things like your posture, how you're breathing, that you're breathing deep into your abdomen and you're breathing out, and it's like flowing into one another. And as you do this, you're basically focusing on your most essential state, which is just beingness. And there is a reason why you'd experience a lot of resistance to this initially, which is that in our modern world, if I'm writing something, writing a blog, doing whatever, I probably compulsively try to check Gmail or Facebook or whatever a ton of times, probably countless number of times while I'm writing. When I'm reading an article, I probably have 5 other tabs up on the internet. There's examples of multitasking everywhere, but I think why mindfulness and meditation is gaining a lot of popularity right now is that we're seeing maybe that doesn't really skyrocket our productivity. Maybe it kind of maxes us out a little bit. And so getting back to the basics of focusing on one thing at a time, man, meditation can really help you with that. But yeah, it's gonna feel a little uncomfortable at first because you're gonna have a ton of subconscious urges to do things that you do all the time, like fiddle and scratch your nose and whatever. And by just bringing it back to that breath and even just thinking inhaling, exhaling, and then when your brain starts to go nuts, it's going to start thinking thoughts, it's going to start criticizing you and how you're meditating, or thinking about your grocery list, a million things. It's not, for me, about stopping that, at all, because that gives you another reason to beat yourself up. So it's not I should not be doing this, I should not be doing this. That's what will start happening if you get into that, I need to stop thinking. If you can just start to, and this is going to be happening on an almost constant basis at first, think oh, a thought. And it's almost you just take a little mental post-it note and just flag that there's a thought, oh, there's a thought, there's a thought. Those are all thoughts. So once you do that, you're able to almost see that there are these different currents running through you. One is this current of what you might hear a lot of new age people say is source, which is kind of this idea of God. And your source is you're connected to everything. You're connected to this observer. That's the observer who can look at you, the one who's confused or scared or frightened or even over the top happy or whatever it is, the one who's emoting and thinking and can have this this different perspective. Let me play the hippie card and throw out fractals. It's kind of like meditation zooms you in and zooms you out at the same time, but you're getting a rich, full perspective from that, but it's zooming into a fractal, zooming out a fractal. It's all this basic same framework going on. And once you do that a little bit more, and you can cultivate this in different ways, in different mindful ways, research this stuff. If this is appealing to you, mindfulness, meditation, look it up and look at some really simple examples of how to start it. And know that being perfect isn't the goal, or being a spiritual master isn't the goal at all. It's just about slowly making these steps to where you want to be to where you have a little bit more space, and then you don't need to be so overcome by your emotions. You can see you can feel that heaviness of being in your emotions, and feeling a certain way and allowing yourself to feel that, but you can also see this kind of like levity in it, and in that it's just kind of this movie that you're playing out. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, but thank you to Kirsten for inspiring this video. And yeah, I'm not even saying everybody should meditate. I'm just kind of explaining like the fact that all of these things that I think we used to think like, oh, that's for spiritual people, that's for somebody else. It's because we have this idea of them being like perfect things, and really they're very connected to our everyday lives. Ever since I've incorporated these kinds of things into my morning routine, they also just give me enough space that when I'm reacting to things in my day, I feel the whole entire day, some more than others, I feel like I have a little bit more space to observe myself then too. I'm a little bit less likely to react from this, totally like volatile, like, place where you just poke me and I'm like, "Arr," and I just flip out. So it's awesome. So I hope you got something from this. Have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you all later.